Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Radio Dead Air Tech Q&A. You've got questions. We've got guesses. I'm Nash. I work in IT. Well, I used to be in IT before I did Radio Dead Air. With me, as always, my producer, Mike Gearman, who also works in IT. If you've got tech questions for us, you can send those to requests at radiodeadair.com. We'll answer them for you. How you doing, Mike?
Better than Jake Paul's jaw.
It was so funny. That made me happy. All right, we are about to do.
In the same vein, Andrew Tate apparently also got his ass beat in a boxing ring.
Yeah, it's been a good. It's been a good few days. All right, this week we are wrapping up our holiday build guide for our PC build guide. This week is No Limit. This is what we would build if we had access to unlimited funds. Before we get there, though, I wanted to mention something else that's popped up related to the RAM shortage thing. I saw this on both Salem Techsperts and Hardware Canucks. You should follow them both on YouTube. They're excellent. And there has been going around this relatively inexpensive adapter that will allow you to use laptop RAM with a desktop system. It adapts the SODIMM sized RAM sticks to UDIMM or DRAM or DIMM sticks that'll go into a regular desktop PC. Now, there are a couple of drawbacks to doing this. One of the issues with DDR5 is it has a high signal requirement. The signal integrity has to be maintained, otherwise the speeds can't be maintained. And the more bits you put in the way between the CPU and the RAM, the harder it is to keep the signal integrity going. There are a couple different models floating around. Of the ones that are floating around, you want to get this one here if you're interested in doing this. That has the 3 surface mount capacitors on it. Apparently, this one can keep a higher speed than some of the others. Probably you can, at worst, you will have it running at around 4800, DDR5 4800. At best, you might get it up to around 6000. Why this is useful is when people get laptops these days, they don't have a lot of RAM slots. They typically only have maybe 2 at most. And people want to upgrade those to hold more. So they move from the base RAM, which the smallest RAM stick in DDR5 is 8 gigabytes. So they move from 8 gigabytes to either 216 gigabytes or 264 or 232 or 264 if they want. But that means there's a lot of 8 gigabyte SODIMM laptop RAM floating around because people buy a new laptop, they upgrade, and then they put the RAM on YouTube. So if people are looking to build on eBay, right? If people are looking to build a system and they can't afford RAM, for a while, you might be able to pick up SODIMM chips and use these adapters for them. The adapters run from about 10 to 20 bucks, probably more on the 10 side. You can actually find them on Alibaba and other places as well. That's the upside of this. The downside is, now that people realize this works, there's going to be a scramble in the market to grab SODIMMs cheaply while people can. So you're going to see the prices on those start to rise. But this might be a good stopgap. If you're in a position where you are looking to build a new system, this will cut it. Right now, you can get 8 gigabyte SODIMM sticks for about $50, which is half the price of regular RAM sticks for systems today.
So I saw a piece of news about the RAM shortage that pissed me off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying, the RAM shortage, it's happening now. It is probably going to continue through all of 2026.
Yeah.
And do you know who made that report? Micron. Micron, the company that decided to stop
Yeah.
making RAM. I'm like, really, guys? You stopped making RAM, and now you're saying the shortage is going to last through 2020. Why is that? Do you think, guys, who stopped making RAM?
Yeah. I do like pointing out that the RAM manufacturers, the small number of them, were found illegally working together in conjunction to set RAM prices. They have been caught and prosecuted for this at least once before. They do collude. So yeah, it's in any event, if you would like to upgrade your laptop, you might want to hurry because the prices there have not been quite as crazy, but they're going to ramp up when people realize that laptop RAM is an alternative to desktop, at least for now. So that's something to be aware of. If you are hard up for RAM and you just need to get a system going, you can grab those 8 gigabyte sticks. You can find them on eBay and use these and you'll have a computer going. If you have a laptop and you want to upgrade it and you want to get something like maybe 32 gigs or 64 gigs, now's the time, because once these take off, it's going to change a whole bunch of stuff. So, all right. Now that we've done that, let's get to our choices for the build. Mike, I always have to ask you this.
Before you start on me, I built a machine that I would use.
So did I.
We have very different use cases, is what I'm saying.
You have the option that you could get whatever. And you're just like, oh, I'm fine with this.
Yeah.
Are you fucking with, I'll deliver the very first one on, all right, we're going to go to CPUs. And I'm like, are you screwing with me this time? All right. So Mike, where's why did you pick the 7950 X3D?
I thought I picked a higher one. Hang on, did I misclick? I must have misclicked. I apologize for that one.
Because I was just sitting there going, why not the 9950? If you're going to go with the X3D, why did you get the 7950?
It should be, sorry, it should be okay, so I did this list about 2 a.m. last night because I was like, oh, I forgot. So that should be the 9950. My bad. I will grant that one.
I was like, are you messing with me with this? Because if you're going to stick with the AM5 platform, I guess there is, I guess, if you're talking about like the fastest gaming option, the 9950 X3D would be the fastest possible. But there is a point where, if you've got this much access to cache, why are you limiting yourself to just the X3D option? Because
I'm going to say something that you're going to find amusing, Nash. Maybe I'll find amusing. The 9950 X3D is $75 cheaper.
Yeah, because this one's going out of production. I got me one that could do both. I went with the Threadripper Pro 9995 WX. It is, without comparison, the fastest workstation CPU on the planet. It should be noted that neither Mike and I went with Intel at either end of things. For a home system or a workstation system, neither of us said Intel. They just have nothing right now. They might have something next year, but right now, nothing. All the best you can get is AMD or AMD if you're looking for the best of the best. The Threadripper Pro 9995 WX is, without a doubt, best of the best. It is 96 cores. And at least I'm bad at math, which is why I need 96 cores, because I'm bad at math. That is 192 threads. That is many things you can do at once on this system.
Indeed, I will grant that.
Rendering, streaming, compiling any real workload, this thing makes mincemeat of it. You could host multiple instances of server options for yourself. You could hold multiple virtual machines at the same time. You could be your own one-man WoW raid with this.
I mean, you could do that with my computer as well, but it wouldn't be that bad. You'd have to play mages. Because apparently that is the one, making all your DPS mages, it's apparently, okay, I can't say that anymore necessarily. It apparently was the easiest way to multi-box was mages, because you just, their rotation was that. I'm going to stay here real quick. I was once in a pickup raid. It was 2 tanks, 3 healers, me, and 14 mages that all had the same name except the last character, which was A through N. That sounds right. Yeah. My DPS was shit compared.
Well, the beauty of the Threadripper is it offers very little compromise if you want to do stuff like game with this processor. It is not the fastest gaming processor, but it is a very competent gaming processor for a workstation PC. It's built on the same basis as the Ryzen CPU, so it's not that alien to any game you're trying to play it with.
Unlike the previous editions of Threadripper, which games had a lot of issues with. By the way, apparently I have an echo, and it's
I fixed it. I fixed it. So yeah, this CPU all by itself is $11,000 for one CPU, which effectively.
I'm going to interject something here. I know we're not supposed to say prices until the end. His CPU costs more than my build.
Let's see.
I just have a hard time spending that much money, even fictionally, Nash.
Well, effectively, this is 6 16-core computers at your disposal at once. That is a lot. Just setting up the virtual machines. You can do, I would be able to do a lot with this. I would do a lot with this because it's remarkable.
Including heat your house.
Not necessarily. You can change some of the settings on this, and between this and Intel, this is far more efficient. That's the other thing it has going. The best Intel workstation CPU they have, nowhere near AMD in efficiency. It's crazy. Considering like 20 years ago, AMD's efficiency was like the only way they could keep up with Intel was to pour more electricity in their CPUs, and now the situation's reversed. It's crazy. For a motherboard, you went with the X870E Aorus Extreme AI. I hate the fucking AI marketing shit.
Okay, there's a reason I went with this motherboard, and it's not because of the AI. I looked at several motherboards, and most motherboards, when you start filling up the M.2 slots, will go, right. Oh, hey, your PCIe slot? We're dropping it to half speed.
Even like the MSI, like the high-end MSI unit?
This one does not. Okay. What it does instead, it says, oh, you filled up your M.2s. You know that second PCIe slot that you have but you never use? We're turning that one off. So you've got full speed on your video card and full speed on all your M.2s. And I'm like,
yeah. Even the MSI, even like the MSI Mag Godlike?
No, the Godlike even does that too. Or to me, I know last year's Godlike did. I wasn't sure about this one. This was the first one I found that did it. And I go like, I can live with explaining the words, the letters AI and this for this.
I went with one of the only 2 options for mine. Asus and ASRock are the only 2 who are making WRX 90E It's a specialized chipset for the Threadripper. This is the Asus Pro WS WRX90E Sage SE workstation motherboard. This motherfucker can handle, it's got 10 gigabyte LAN. It has 7 PCIe 5.0 X16 slots. It's got 4 PCIe M.5.0 M.2 slots. Can handle up to a terabyte of RAM if you could get it. That's just RAM. That's not everything else. It's just RAM. It is without a doubt just a massive, massive beast of a motherboard. It's amazing, and I love it. Like, there are not a lot of options when you're talking about Threadripper at this level. There simply aren't. There's not a lot of market for $10,000 CPUs, so you're kind of limited on motherboard choice. But between Asus and ASRock, you do have some good options to work with. This one has just, the PCIe has no compromises. 4 PCIe 5.0. If you want to fill it up with 7 cards, 7 graphics cards, technically you could, but we'll get to that. For RAM, now this is another one. Why did you go with the Vengeance RGB 128? Why not a Dominator?
I'm trying to remember why I didn't pick Dominator. Keep in mind, this is the 1 a.m., 2 a.m. decision. And I had a note in Notepad about it, and then I closed my Notepad, and now I don't remember what my note was.
Because the Dominator titanium stuff really kind of puts the Vengeance stuff to shame. I mean, we are pointing out here that this is 2 64 gig sticks capable of doing DDR5 6400. No mean feat. The smaller the number of RAM chips on the RAM stick, the fact that opens up some headroom for speed for overall. The more RAM chips you add to a RAM stick, the slower they have to go. So even getting to 6400 with just 2 RAM sticks, that's pretty damn fast. And considering it's 128 gigabytes, that is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah. I mean, I'm running 64 in the rig I currently have. I'd love to have 128 in there on 2 chips. I just didn't have the money for it when I built this machine.
And if you did add more RAM sticks, say you added two kits of this, for example, that would impact your speed even further, because the more RAM sticks you add to a setup, the slower the RAM responds, and you'd have to clock it down, but perhaps 6,000, maybe even under 6,000 to even get to work with the CPU. That's Intel, AMD. That's just the nature of RAM sticks. They did it in DDR4. It does it in DDR5. We talked about signal integrity when we started off with the adapters. DDR5 signal integrity is really, really sensitive. So if you're able, the less parts you put on it, the easier you can get the signal integrity. And this is still impressive for getting to that level. I had to go with some very specialized RAM for mine. This is V-Color. There's no real happy name for this.
No.
This is 512 gigabytes. 8 64 gigabyte sticks of DDR5 6000 CL36. But what makes this special is this is ECC RAM, error correcting RAM, which is required for working with Threadripper. You can't just plop in any regular RAM sticks in there. You have to have the error correcting variety or it won't work. It is a little slower, but with the error correction and the options with Threadripper, and they don't even that. This is not something you overclock. There are no heat sinks on these. There's no LEDs here. This is just
this is server RAM. I'll be honest with you. If I ever walked into a server room and they had LED memory that I could see in server racks, I'd be like,
there is only one.
What is wrong with you?
There's only one use case I could think of for that, and that is having an indicator light on the LED on the RAM to say everything is good or something is wrong at a glance for a server. Wouldn't that be good if you were in a server situation? You could look over, all the RAM's got a green light on it, or, oh, that stick's got a red light.
You say that, but the kind of coworkers I have would be reprogramming the colors just to do wacky stuff. Still walk in and I'd walk in and go, you're making them all blink in sequence on purpose.
But still, you got to say there is a use case for it. It's just not the blink. Still, this one, nope, that's not happening. Let's see. For storage, you went with the Samsung 9100 Pro 8 terabyte, PCIe 5.0, NVMe. I went with Western Digital, S8 8100 8 terabyte. Same situation, PCIe 5.0. This is just a personal preference for me.
The advantage you have. Okay, so I will say this: the advantage you have, your motherboard will have all of those at PCIe 5x4. Mine has a couple at PCIe 4, but the reason I bought all of them the same one at PCIe 5 is because if the main one goes bad for something, I can just move another one up. And it's also PCIe.
Easier. It's also easier on RAID if all the drives are the same. RAID if you're running a RAID array for some weird reason, it likes all the drives to be the same. It helps. They don't have to be, but it helps.
Or at least the same family. Because I've done this. Just to say again, I've done the situation where back when we had a server with spinning drives, where we were going, oh, we need to upgrade these drives. We need more storage. What we did, this is a back-ass-words way to do it, maybe. We had, 5 drives there of a certain capacity. We got all the drives in of the double capacity. I pulled one, put in one. Waited for the RAID to rebuild itself. Next day, pull one, put in one. RAID rebuilt itself. And that's how we doubled the capacity of our server.
Honestly, with this, it's pretty much personal preference. Speed-wise, they are really competitive. And at a certain point, there is still problems with PCIe Gen 5. You're not going to be running them at full speed constantly, because if you try, they're not going to work at full speed because they're going to start overheating. We're still working on that. But yeah, between the two of us, we both have at least 32 terabytes of SSD storage. General storage, which could be 32 terabytes, or it could be 8 terabytes or with 4 an RAID array with backups. So if something fails, you have failover. Different options there, but it's a lot.
And you added an additional 60 terabytes of backup. Well, 230s is 60.
Can you believe 30 terabyte spinning drives are a thing? That I was stunned when we hit like 10 terabytes, and now we have 30 terabytes. Now, obviously, these are not going to be for accessing programs or accessing operating systems. These are totally for sort of almost archival storage. This is for data that doesn't need to be read, loaded into memory. It's just for like video, documents, backups, that sort of thing. If you are going to be working with that sort of stuff and you'd like to have storage, this is good. If I were doing this, if I were able to do this, these would be put in a RAID array. So I could have storage with failover, so that if one went bad, I would lose nothing and I could just replace it with another one. But 30 terabytes, so that brings the whole storage to something like 62, 64 terabytes of storage in the system. And the only reason I limited myself to 2 is my case limited me to 2. That's the only reason. This year I picked a slightly different case just for comfort and stuff. Anyway, graphics cards. Mike.
What?
You're fucking with me.
That's possible.
If you had all the money to spend on a graphics card, you would pick the 9070 XT.
Okay, what mistake did I make this time?
No. I mean, even if you wanted to go AMD, why not the 7900 XT? Or the XTX. Sorry, why not the 7900 XTX?
That may have been the thing, and then another thing in the notepad. I honestly couldn't tell you. Remember, 2 a.m. build.
Because the 9070 XT, AMD stopped. They didn't want to compete with even the 5080 or the 50. That's why it's a 70 class. They gave it the 70 designation. They weren't competing with the 5080 or the 5090. This was, we're not going to bother with that. We're just going to sell to the mainstream market. The last big card they made, which is faster than this one, is the 7900 XTX with 24 gigs of RAM. So if you wanted to go AMD, this isn't even your best option right now.
Okay, yeah.
Even
Possibly.
being a generation older, it's still faster than the 9070 XT. It's more expensive, but it is still faster. Like, why would you?
I seriously hate the GeForce Power Kicker. I'll be honest with you, that's one of the reasons I seriously hate that call.
But you simply cannot compete with the RTX 5090. It is there are faster cards for server grade and workstation grade, but if you want the all around fastest to do kind of both, it's the 5090 32 gig. I went with the Asus TUF version. There is actually another version of this I was looking at. The Asus Anniversary Edition. I don't know why it's the anniversary. I guess it's an Asus Anniversary. They have a version of the 5090 that can be can move, I believe it's up to 700 watts. And the way they do this, however, is they have to use the proprietary BTF connector on their Asus motherboards. It adds another slot to plug the card into that will deliver an extra 250 watts of power to the card. You can't get that for Threadripper. That's the only reason I didn't get that one, because by going up to 700 watts, you can clock the 5090 way higher. And it's remarkable. You could even make it even faster. It is not in any way efficient. It will burn power like crazy. But if you want pure freaking blazing speed, that it can't be beat. Even the 5090 at this running the regular upper limit of power for the 5090, you can't beat it. There's nothing that's the shame of NVIDIA. That's the big problem. And it's still beating us up in the market. I mean, if I hate it, I hate the fact that this is the best, but it quite simply is the best, even though the company is the worst. It sucks. And that's just the way things are. For power supplies, you went with a Be Quiet Dark Power 14 1200 watt, fully modular, titanium certified, which is super nice. Yeah, Dark Be Quiet. I mean, they're Be Quiet. They are a mainstay at this point, and you know what you're getting.
It's the brand I'm running in this computer right here. And yeah, love it.
Although I would say the thing is, Mike, your build's too efficient for this power supply. Because even with what you have,
my estimated wattage is around just under 800 watts.
Right.
If I swap out for the 9950s, just over 800 watts, and I think 1200 watts, plenty of headroom.
You'd have some overhead. That's true. You if you ever maxed it out, you'd put it right in the middle of the curve. The thing about power supplies is their upper limit is the least efficient way to run it. A computer power supply takes the alternating current from the wall, converts it into direct current that the PC can use. But whenever you convert from alternating current to direct current, you lose some power. It's an efficiency issue. somewhere in the middle of the power load, some like with a 1200, somewhere between 6 and 800 watts, you get the most efficient power conversion. This will go all the way up to around 1200 watts. No problem. It can deliver that much power without any concern, no overload, no shorting out. But doing it at the full level, you lose efficiency. The way Mike's system is set up, it's always going to be running at its worst case scenario. It's still going to be running the most efficient power conversion. I went with, and I love this thing. I love this goofy, horrible looking thing. I went with the Seasonic Prime TX 1600 watt, titanium certified, fully modular, Noctua edition. And the reason I love this is,
show them the picture of the bottom of this thing.
They put a brown ass Noctua fan in this bad boy.
Okay. I may have mentioned this before. I'm not sure if I did or not. It's not tech related. Many, many years ago, my dad, rest in peace, was looking for a new truck, and he, for whatever reason, took my mom with him. And then they came back, and he said, "We're not getting the truck she wants," because it was, I can't remember the exact detail. It was either puke green with shit brown trim or shit brown with puke green trim. That's the one she wanted. And that's what Noctua color, it always triggers that memory in my head.
However,
they're good stuff.
The thing about power supplies is, unless you are inclined to break the warranty and screw around inside with high voltage, you're stuck with whatever fan they give you. And while Be Quiets are very good, Noctuas are unquestionably the best. You have to pay through the nose for it, but Noctua fans, if you could, if you wanted to, take any given power supply right now and mod in a Noctua fan if you wanted to. It's just your warranty would be instantly void because all of these systems, they use the same fans as in your case. There's the same 120 millimeter or 140 millimeter.
Now,
you could
I'm
put
looking
that.
At that.
Uh-huh.
The way that's hooked up right there with the 4 screws on it, I don't know if they can see that on the show. I mean, it should be visible.
Yeah.
That looks like that fan is completely user replaceable right there, trivially.
No, well, the screw-in panel is, but to open it up, warranty void. You're not supposed to do that.
But I feel like those 4 screws that would pop
you
off.
Could do it. You can do that with most any power supply, honestly.
Yeah, but this one looks like it's designed for you to do that.
Well,
it looks like
we want to stress to everyone watching, you should never, unless you are trained in usage with high voltage electronics, you should never work on your own power supply. There are capacitors within a computer power supply that can retain a charge even when turned off, even when sitting on a shelf for a long time, that simply touching them the wrong way will instantly kill you. Only mess with a power supply if you're a professional, and really, even if you're a professional, you shouldn't, because the warranty will cover it, usually. If it's still in warranty, don't screw with it. Let them take care of it, because otherwise, you're potentially messing it up, and you have, to worry about it. You have to worry about the cost yourself. Regardless, Seasonic is an excellent name in power supplies. This is 1600 watts, as quiet as it could possibly be. And my system definitely will not be running on the efficient end of the curve, because it's going to be a power demander. For cases, you went with the same one as last year, which is still perfectly freaking respectable. This is the Cooler Master High Airflow 700 Evo.
I need to correct you there. The same one as last year, and the year before, and the year before that, and I think maybe even the year before that.
This thing is a large case, full tower, ATX, EATX, the whole 9 yards. And leave that Cooler Master thingy on the front. That's an LCD, right?
That is a little LCD screen. You can put images there. You can put a boot image there. You can put some diagnostic stuff there. You can do all kinds of things there. It's got a mesh front and with those little glass slats. So you get the best of both worlds. You get plenty of airflow, Plus, those glass slats have LEDs on them, basically at the bottom or the top. The bottom, I think, yeah. And so they can light up and do pretty things there too.
Yeah, this is a ode to the halcyon days of Cooler Master with their high airflow cases from about 10 years ago. This is an updated version of that, and it is simply put a beast. It's a lovely case. I went with something I've kind of been looking at for a while. I went with something a little bit newer this year. This is the Height Y70 Touchscreen Infinite. It comes with that screen built in it, which I did that sort of modification myself in my case. It's got a screen built in it, but I can't access it as a touchscreen. This has the screen built in where you can access it as a touchscreen. You can use it for running stuff, extra programs, extra system space, indicators, which is what I already use mine for. I've got at the bottom. In fact, I'm going to show y'all.
Virtual
see that at the
goldfish.
bottom. Yeah, you see that at the bottom of the screen. I already have right there that control panel there. Yeah, that's what's on the side of my PC at all times. I can just look over and I can see what the temperatures are, what's being used. It's like a live status on what's going on with my system. The Height has that built in now, so you don't have to mod it in yourself. It's also a slightly newer version. It does come with a PCIe 4.0 X16 riser, so you can vertically mount, but I wouldn't use it because it's 4.0. 5.0 risers, I don't know if they're actually in use yet. I'd still have to you can mount it either way. You can mount your video card vertical, or you can mount it horizontal, same as it used to be. Very good airflow on this case. Lovely airflow. Takes 3 120s at the bottom and 3 120s on the side and 3 120s on the top. The top and the side can also mount radiators. The bottom can be used for intake airflow. So you have cool air coming in the bottom and going out the sides and the top. Or you can have the side be intake airflow, or however you want to use it. It's really nice. Height has been putting out some really cool stuff. Lee & Lee is a big competitor, but this is the creme de la creme. If I was looking at replacing my case that I have put a lot of stuff into, this would be a good candidate. However, the limitation on it is the reason I only got 2 spinning SATA drives is this is a mid-tower case. It only has room for 2 SATA drives, 2 3.5 inch SATAs. You can do 4 2.5 inches, but it only can do 2 of the 30 terabyte drives, which I don't know. People aren't even barely using one of them these days. So, for fans, you went with the Lee & Lee, which are, again, very nice fans. Lee & Lee Unifan SL Infinity. You went with a number of 3-packs on these. These are nice. If you like the LEDs and you want to connect them together, they have cableless connections between the fans. They just snap together. Very simple. They have the infinity mirrors on the side, which also look really cool. They are Lee & Lee. They do perform very well. They are pricey, but
I tossed a fan controller in there, which the only thing PC Parts Picker did not like about my build, it says, hey, you need one more USB header, because it didn't recognize the fan controller was going to control the fans. And that's understandable. It's a little bit harder for it to go, oh, what's going to happen here?
Actually, it's honestly trivial. I've done this myself. It's trivial to just use a USB splitter connector on a USB fan, header. This is just a little throw it out there on your motherboard. They make USB header splitters for motherboard headers now. So if you need more than one USB 2.0 connector, which a lot of devices use USB 2.0, splitter will work if you absolutely need it.
The reason I went with the fan controller is basically so I don't have to worry about power issues. The fan controller provides all the power. You just run standard power up to it from the power supply. It provides the power to all the fans and controls all the fans. It's got whatever little program you have from the controller, and you're good to go.
Noctua is without question the best made PC fans on the planet. But if you want a balance between good performance and how they look, Lee and Lee has got you covered, because Lee and Lee really respects the aesthetics. Because my system did not really have RGB this time, the Threadripper and motherboard, not really a lot of RGB. I'm going to be taking off, well, I'm going to be water cooling, of course. We'll get to that, but taking off the air cooler on the GPU. So there's not a lot of RGB. I went with what I like. I like the Noctua has been really good, but Arctic has been nipping at their heels. Not, no pun intended. The Arctic P12 Pro and the PST stands for Power Connect. These don't snap together, but they have little tails that allow you to run them into a single connector. So you put 3 of these together into just a regular PWM header. These perform so good. I have these in my system right now. I had to replace a couple of fans because they were, one of them was dying, and they have to match if they're going to the same connector. They are actually fairly cheap for being such good performers. $10 each. No LEDs, though they do have an LED version. I didn't go with that just for the aesthetics of the case. They work really well. It's weird to pick a budget option here for unlimited, but this is what, like kind of Mike says, I went with what I wanted. This is for what I'd get out of them. These are some of the best. Noctua was best all around, but these are some of the best performers on radiators right now, which comes into what I want to do with mine. For cooling, you went with the NZXT Kraken Z73 RGB. Yep, absolutely. Liquid coolers, while, they've kind of been a little suspect these days with a lot of different issues, they work great when they work. And NZXT has, for all their other issues they've had over the year, that whole rent to own computer crap. Yeah. What the fuck was that? Despite that, their Kraken coolers are very good. And definitely ones if you're looking for, they are pricier. There are a lot of dirt cheap liquid coolers right now. Some of them are pretty good. Some of them are not much better than air coolers. NZXTs are pretty good. The only tricky thing here, Mike, is, are you using a Lee and Lee controller?
No.
Okay, because one of the problems with NZXT, a problem with a lot of different manufacturers, is there is still not a universal RGB and controller standard yet. And that little LCD that's built into the pump, you have to use NZXT's CAM software to make it work. It's very dumb and frustrating. That's the only hiccup, though. So I've had to mess with that with mine. That's kind of why the screen I put in mine is just a generic HDMI, and I use the software on the computer itself rather than have something control the screen, because it's just so dumb. And they're still doing it because it's the way to make extra money off people. But I went with a custom loop because, number one, there's not a lot of there's not a lot of liquid coolers for Threadripper, but there are some water blocks. Heat Killer 4 and Heat Killer 5 from Watercool. Those things are the bomb. They are very, very good, well made, solid. No RGBs on this one. They're just made to get the dang job done. This will keep a Threadripper cool. And to go along with it, I also got one for the Asus graphics card I picked, Killer 5 Pro. So both the CPU and GPU will be liquid cooled. A pump I went with, where is it? Where's the pump? Where's my pump? It's an AlphaCool. Pumpy pump. Where's the pump? Where is you? Where are you? It's the bottom. Where'd I put it? I think
you left it off.
I did leave it. Did I leave it off? Shit, I thought there it is. The AquaCute Computer Utilitube D5. This thing is just so damn overbuilt. And if I was going to be doing this, I would kind of overbuild this. The reason you get the Utilitube is it actually has a leak protection on it. which is very nice in that it will create negative pressure if it senses a leak. It has a way to sense leaks in the system. It can draw negative pressure with that little diaphragm at the top and hold the leak in until you can fix it. So if your system develops a leak somewhere, it won't drip anywhere. It will just do this. The computer will tell you, hey, look, I had to turn on the leak protection. You need to fix something. It will save your system. And when we're talking about something this expensive, if you're using water cooling, if I was going to be doing this, water cooling would be an enthusiast level. I do also want to point out, if you're going to be doing super high-end stuff, water cooling is less viable than it ever was before, simply because of the maintenance requirements and the customization required. Air cooling might be a better option. Noctua does have some really cool air coolers for Threadripper. They have some of the best for Threadripper. But I've been kind of dumb about it because I kind of want as much of a silent of a system as possible, and water cooling. The advantage of a system being water cooled means you can get similar cooling performance with the fans turned lower. It's more efficient to pass you're still dissipating the same amount of heat, and you're still going to warm up your room the same amount, air or liquid. It's just liquid cooling lets you keep the fan levels down lower to get the same amount of cooling efficiency. So that's kind of, if I have to sit next to the damn thing. I also got 2 Alpha Cool 360 millimeter radiators in white to match the case. The case can only hold 2. I might be tempted. I didn't really think about it, but I might be tempted to separate the cooling loops, one for the 5090 and one for the graphics, one for the CPU, so that they don't dump each other's heat together, because both of them can dump a lot of heat. You can kind of control them a little bit better, get 2 separate pumps, 2 separate loops, and that way you have a little bit better cooling control. But yeah. All told. No. You went. I don't know. You also added a screen. Why do you add the screen? Samsung Odyssey Neo. Because it was under. Well, you could have just gotten more expensive shit. Why did you add the screen? You got a Samsung Odyssey Neo G95, and that's a 4K curved. Wow, I didn't know they were doing that yet. I thought they were still at like 2K curved.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Nash. If I had a better desk set up here, and the money, I would get this monitor.
Is this OLED?
I can't tell you that without looking it up.
Well, let me
specifications. Come on, say OLED, say something. FreeSync.
HDR 1000, that mini LED. It's mini LED, which, considering the price you'd spend on this, it's something like $1,500 to $2,200. Considering the money you'd spend on this, I feel more comfortable with mini LED. OLED, you always run the risk of burn-in. Mini LED gives you similar, not as good performance as OLED, but similar without running the risk of screen burn-in. So for that much money, I'd be like, yeah, I don't want to risk burning this in. Your grand total was $10,000, $10,539.35.
Or $75 less if you throw the 9950 X3D on there instead.
Mine, $33,000. $33,391.70. And I would like to point out, this was not by design. I was actually expecting to have a slightly cheaper system this year, except the RAM situation. The 512 gigabytes of RAM represent 1/3 of the build cost. $11,000. Almost 11,000. $10,439 for 512 gigabytes of RAM. That would have been half as much a year ago. That's still pricey for error correcting RAM, but it would have been half the price. Maybe even under that this time last year. Another third is the CPU. Yeah, the CPU is 10,000, which it always was. There hasn't been any price fluctuation. The best of the best of the Threadripper, there are slightly less powerful Threadrippers that you can get for half this price or even less that will give you a lot of the performance of a Threadripper. So even then, you're still getting probably the most effective workstation. Even you can even get one on a budget. Let me see what the price of a Threadripper 9000 series is, because this is just the fastest one with the most PCIe lanes. The 9995WX. Good Lord, that's a mouthful. That's just the one with the most PCIe lanes. You can still get a lot of the same performance with there's this, even the 9965, which is 2448, has a lot of the same the PCIe lanes, there's the word, as well. And the price does come down lower down you go. There's also there's the Threadripper Pro series, which is this, and then you have the regular Threadripper series, which is the 9980X, also 64,128, but it's half this price. So you can, at least AMD is, they're more expensive than they were before, because I remember my Threadripper, my first one, the 16 thread 32, wow, was still $1,000 for a CPU. And the prices have gone up, but you can still get some effective ones for less. I just went with the big badass for mine. It's just the RAM situation's crazy. And this is going to be a terrible year, and it sucks. We will do our best over the year to try to help you mitigate and keep your system running. If you even can't build a new one, we'll try and keep your shit running. That's what we're here for.
Who knows? Maybe we'll get a January present. The AI bubble will burst, and Micron will go, yeah, we're going to restart the Crucial lines because there's no one buying AI RAM.
We're not that lucky. All right, let's start with our questions here. This one comes from the YouTube comments. This is Shadow ACS1. Hi, Nash. Been watching show for a long time. I finally have a tech question. I have an Xbox One controller that I'm using to play games on my PC. The controller is connected to the USB port, not by Bluetooth. Recently, the left trigger button has been misbehaving. Games are registering the button as being held down, sometimes for several seconds at a time, when I'm not even touching it. The button's not sticking or making any unusual noises when I press it. The problem has persisted across multiple different games. Sometimes unplugging the controller, waiting a few seconds, and plugging it back in fixes the problem for a few minutes, then it starts back up again. I've been using this controller pretty heavily for about 2 years and brought it brand new out of the box, and the problem only started a couple weeks ago. Is there a possible fix for this, or is it time to get a new controller? Well, all right, let's try to locate where the issue is. You're saying you're using it wired. One thing to do first off is connect it via Bluetooth temporarily and see if the problem with the trigger persists. If it does, we have ruled out the cable as being an issue here.
Indeed.
That's one of the first things to look at with the controller like this is maybe the cable is screwed up. Another thing you can do is if your system doesn't do the Bluetooth connection or you don't have an Xbox One to test it with, try a different cable. That might not be 100% reliable because if there's a problem with the USB connector on the controller, it might be an issue. But otherwise, switching it to Bluetooth as a connection might reveal if this is a cable or a controller problem. Yes, in theory, you can fix this yourself. All the way up to and including replacing the button.
Yeah. iFixit has parts for basically the entire thing.
And they do have a guide for how to disassemble and reassemble it yourself. It is cheaper than getting an entire controller. You might not actually need the parts. This might be simply a case of the button has gotten either dirty or if the button's dirty, that's pretty easy to fix. you could open it up, clean it out with some compressed air. If it still remains kind of sticky, might want to try some contact cleaner in the button. You can sell the electronics contact cleaner. You can find that. Even Lowe's has a variety of it. Just a little spritz. Don't go crazy with it. That will potentially, if there's something with the contacts in the switch itself, that could deal with it. I doubt it's going to be a wire issue because the wires inside the controller don't move around a lot. I'm pretty sure there's just something dirty around that button. You can disassemble it, you can clean it out, and
as I just mentioned, iFixit specifically has a teardown cleaning guide for this sort of problem.
iFixit's wonderful for that stuff. If the button itself is faulty, if it's just been pressed too much and it's dying, replacing the button's fairly trivial. It will be cheaper than getting an entirely new controller, but it won't be cheapest. You'll still spend money on it. You'll have to spend money on the part, spend money on the, let's see, what's the
and of course, there's the time it takes you to fix it, depending on how much you think your time is worth.
Yeah, controller bumper. Apparently this happens quite a bit. Bumper assembly. Let's see. Okay, it's only $10 to, oh, that's just the bumper assembly. It's not the buttons, though. Okay, let's see what. Oh, well, okay, the motherboard controller is only $15. So if you have to tear the whole thing out, yeah, it's not that pricey. And it is cheaper than fixing, yeah. Oh, there's even a fix for controller drift. That's nice. Drift fix analog sticks. That's nice. Neat. Hi, Bubba. What you doing up there? You tall? Is Charlie tall? And Charlie is short again. So there are options for this. You can fix it, and it will be a little cheaper than buying a new one. It's up to you if you want to waste time on it. If you feel like it's a waste of time, you just want to buy a new one. But if you like the controller, you just keep it going. It's no problem. Okay, next up, this is from Brian. With all this RAM stuff right now, I was wondering if it's possible to upgrade the RAM in my router. It's an Asus Asus RT AX 5400, and it's not exactly slow, but I don't want to miss a window to upgrade it in case the RAM issue gets worse next year. All right, let's explain this a little bit. Your router, your computer router is your Wi-Fi router is a computer. There's a processor in there.
Passes the data back and forth.
Yeah, that's what the computer, it literally routes the data, and it has to have it's got a little ARM CPU in there, the same kind that's in your cell phone, more or less. And since it's a computer, it needs RAM. Some routers have more than others. Mine has 2 terabytes of RAM. And why more RAM matters? If you have a lot of devices connected to your router, that needs more RAM to figure out how to arrange the data as it comes and goes. And also more cores on the CPU help as well. The trouble here, unfortunately, Brian, is with most routers, there is no RAM upgrade. So I'm not going to say every router, because some NAS units have upgradable RAM, and I'm pretty sure there's got to be a 2 gigabytes. Sorry, Chris, not 2 terabytes, 2 gigabytes of RAM. I always say the wrong thing. My router's got 2 gigs of RAM. Typically, routers have about 512 megs of RAM. They don't put a lot in there. This one has 512. I have 2 gigabytes on mine because we have many computers and stuff. We have consoles. We have the media server. We have a couple different phones. Sarah's got her Switch, 2 different computers, a couple different laptops. We've got a bunch of stuff. So I made sure we got a router with enough RAM to handle everything. There is, unfortunately, Brian, there's not, the cat cams. Yeah. That goes to the media server though. There's not enough. Well, no, you're right. They go through the router, then to the media server. So yeah, they got the cat cams, got a bunch of different Internet of Things stuff. Yeah. Anyway, typically with most home user consumer routers, what the RAM you get is hard soldered. There is really no upgrade for it. Maybe professional stuff or server stuff or high-end stuff, they probably have RAM sticks they put in there that it probably has, space for it. But yours, unfortunately, what you get is what you get. The only way you'd be able to upgrade the RAM in your router is if you got a new router, and you'd have to see how much RAM was in it. However, since they does use the same RAM chips as in your computer, there's going to be a shortage of those next year. And when the routers, when the routers that are on the shelves get sold out, trying to replenish those routers, it's going to be harder for them to put those together. There's going to be shortages on a lot of stuff because of this, and prices are going to go up on a lot of things. It's going to really suck. And if people didn't hate AI before, they're really going to hate it after this crap. They're going to be sitting there saying, I don't use this, I don't want it, but it's made all my stuff more expensive. No. So yeah, that's going to be a bad time. This one came from Blue Sky. This is Ryan Silverfox. Speaking of laptops, I know you've been doing the PC build recommendations on RDA Tech Q&A, but perhaps you can make similar recommendations for laptops for people at some point. Well, Ryan, it's difficult with laptops.
And that's because most companies do not make basically modular laptops. It's basically, we've got a product line. You can pick some variations in that product line, which would be RAM and storage options, and maybe screen size. Screen size is common. But beyond that, and because, I meant to look up the name of the company, the one that does do a modular laptop.
Framework.
That's about the only company I can think of off the top of my head that does that. What we'd be doing is recommending different framework builds.
Well, or different. It's hard to recommend laptops. We could just give you kind of like a general idea of what to look for when you're trying to buy a laptop. But the problem is it's all proprietary. It's all custom. It's all their own design. Some of them cool better than others. Some of them have better battery life than others. Some of them have better screens than others. It's all based on however they're assembled, and it's difficult to judge them without laying hands on them. And with a building a custom system, we generally know what's going on and what part does what, and how they work together, and about how fast they're going to be, and we have a general range of those for components. It's difficult with laptops because, again, there's just so many different, mainly a lot of it comes down to cooling for quite a few of them.
Yeah.
Refurbished ThinkPads are fun. Yeah, rare. It kind of comes down to trying to pick individual ones. So it's a little bit harder to do a wrap up on them. We'd have to you practically need hands on with them. There's a reason why review sites will stick to components. They don't do laptops generally because there are so many different lines, so many different configurations, and it's hard to tell how good they are unless you lay hands on them. We can say, I know for a fact that Framework are making good shit. No, everyone has glowing recommendations for Framework, not just the modular design, but the quality of what they put out. The trouble is, they have to pay more for it because it's more complicated and it's more work.
Yeah, it's basically each one's a custom. It's a custom build. I mean, they've got the component situation basically sorted, but it is still not the case of where they have just a full-on assembly line, just cranking out 2,000 of the same machine.
All right, we got one last one from Chris, came in late. This is hello Nash, Mike, and Assorted Critters. I might want to double check. Anybody else sent anything in? Let me hold. I don't think so. Yeah, this is the last one for tonight. I've been getting a new computer for a while now, as mine is about 7 years old. Has trouble with more recent games for obvious reasons. Unfortunately, it seems I waited too long, but a discussion with a coworker brought about a quick question. I'm not very familiar with the vagaries of the tech business, But do you think if I wait for the inevitable crash after the AI bubble pops, things will be cheaper? Or are we just fucked in general now? I should jump in before things gets worse. Thanks for answering in the show. Okay, Chris.
It's a hard
one
to
of the
say.
one of the big misconceptions about the AI thing is kind of the way it was with the crypto thing. And that was when the crypto bubble popped, people dumped those graphics cards on the market. The thing about it is, though, those graphics cards were off-the-shelf consumer home user graphics cards. They grabbed anything that was available, anything and everything, just for the calculation power of the GPUs. See, graphics takes a lot of computation. And people realized they could take the computation power that was being used for graphics and turn it to stuff like cryptography or AI crap.
Yeah.
The problem is, however, when they talk about GPUs for AI, typically they're not talking about stuff that you and I could use at home. Now, there are some people in like places where it's hard to get import stuff like China that they are using home GPUs, but it's not their best option. It's just typically their only one. That's why they grab all the 5090s they can, all the 7900 XTXs, all the cards they can, they kind of grab because those can be repurposed, but that's not their primary purpose. The big GPUs, and the big problem is NVIDIA is using their production lines to make GPUs for servers or make servers that are GPUs. Which, by the way, those are like $500,000 each for one of those servers. It's crazy. They're making chips that are not, they're structurally the same and they're related to each other the way a bicycle is related to a race car. Got a lot of the same principles, but they're very different at the end of the day. There are cards that, yes, would plug into your system, but they don't even have video outputs on them. They're not made to deliver video. They're not made to be video cards. There are weird workarounds you could work, but it wouldn't be very reliable and it would not be good for games. It'd still be very pricey. Same problem with RAM. It's not, what had happened is the production lines are being turned to a different kind of RAM. In this case, it's typically HBM, which stands for high bandwidth memory. It's not the same as DDR, although they are using a lot of the DDR stuff. The AI companies didn't go around buying all the RAM sticks off the shelf and throw them in the machines.
They went around and bought all the time on the production facilities to produce all these RAM chips. And apparently, I just learned this week, apparently the AI chips, the chips that they use require a triple thick layer wafer versus what we would use at home. And that's why some of this retooling that they do is not as easily unretooled as you would think.
So with RAM, these companies we talked about, they colluded a little bit earlier. They decided they wanted prices at a certain level. So they only made enough RAM and put it into the market to keep prices at that level. When prices started going up beyond what they wanted it to be, or they would increase production. If prices started going too low, they'd cut production. Unfortunately, by tying up the production lines, they can't control the amount of RAM in the market like they would. And they had a very tight control on it to the point where stock could fluctuate like that. I don't know why my nose is so itchy, excuse me. Anyway, now that they've been retooled to stuff like HBM and server RAM and other things that we'll never be able to really make use of here at home, that's why RAM is drying up. That's why the prices are going up, because simply the supply is drying up. And that's why people are going like, well, maybe I could plug laptop memory into my desktop, and kind of works, which, people are kind of getting desperate right now. When the bubble pops, when the crypto bubble popped, like we said, all those graphics cards were the same as consumer ones, and people dumped them and were like, oh, here's cheap graphics cards I can use. They're a little used and they've been battered around, but they're still cheap. When the AI bubble pops, all of the hardware is going to be more or less useless to you and me. For a home system, even a workstation in a lot of cases.
All those data centers will be populated. Some of them might be turned into vast indoor flea markets. That's my suggestion, because you're going to have,
if they even finish getting built. If they even finish getting built,
just not populated, just not been populated yet.
The stuff, the hardware that we're talking about is not going to filter down. We are still going to be in a supply drought. Even if the bubble pops tomorrow and everybody goes, shit, I've got to make money, and they start switching around and ramping up production, we're not going to see that for months. That's not going to hit the store shelves for a long time, because they have to make the chips. The chips then have to get packaged, which is separate from producing the wafer. They have to put the wafer into they take what comes out of the silicon line, they take the wafer, they put it into a form that it can be used in other electronics. That's called packaging. Then that has to be sent off to the third party with graphics cards, sent off to third party manufacturers. With RAM chips, it's sent off to people who take the chips, put it onto sticks, and then they sell them. It's going to take a long time to ramp things back up. This is less like when the crypto thing happened, in fact, and it's more like when the pandemic hit and factories were shut down. That's more or less what's happened. Those factories aren't being used to serve us anymore. So prices will eventually come back to sanity. It's going to be a long time. Next year, we're screwed. It's going to even right now, if tomorrow everybody went, this AI's crap, not making any money, see ya, it would take months, who knows how long, probably the better part of the year, to get supply back out there to be purchased. And that would take a while to bring prices down. So,
I mean, if the bubble pops, say by mid-year, our builds December next year might be more reasonable.
Might. What you might want to think about, Chris, is at least consider some used stuff, and there is some shortcuts you can take. You say your system is 7 years old. Is it Intel or AMD? Because if it's AMD, you're in luck.
Yeah,
if it's an AMD motherboard, AM4 socket, then upgrading your CPU is very simple. It's a drop-in replacement, no problem. DDR4 prices, while they are going up, they're not nearly as crazy as DDR5, because already DDR4 have been phased out. But you might have a better time finding used DDR4 than new DDR4. So if you look on eBay, see about that. Basically, a Ryzen 5000 series processor and adding some more RAM to your system, if you have an AM4 system, will get you pretty close to being modern. You'll be missing some options, but not to the point it would.
Maybe if the motherboard you have supports M.2, but you're using a spinning drive, maybe upgrading that can get you a huge performance increase.
Yeah, it's AMD will keep if you go to a 5000 series AMD CPU, and there are some used ones out there you can look at for a little bit of a discount there too. They'll still work. Just buyer protection. We always say that for used parts. Make sure whatever you buy gets buyer protection. Moving to a Ryzen 5000, if you have an AM4 system and increasing some RAM, that will make you pretty close to modern. The higher end, like for example, Sarah, her system, we started off with a Ryzen 3600, and then I managed to get a Ryzen 5700X used on eBay. That's 8 core, 16 thread, fairly modern. not quite as fast as, say, the Ryzen 7000 or 9000 series, but pretty close. And it's still a very viable system. It's still what people would consider a modern computer. For graphics cards, again, you might want to think about getting something used. RTX 4000 series, pretty good. You get frame generation if you're concerned about that. AMD 6000, 7000, you get a little bit of discount there. Those are reasonably priced. And also you have FSR, which gives you frame generation as well as super sampling and ray tracing if you're concerned about those. Yeah, DDR4 prices, they're rising, but they are better than DDR5. If you are on Intel, you might be in worse shape. Honestly, what you might consider is getting some used AMD parts, because if you're at the point where like you'd be thinking about dropping in a new CPU and RAM AM4 parts, maybe look at getting an AM4 motherboard as well. That's not that much. That would add maybe about $100 or somewhere between $70 and $100 to what, maybe even as low as $50, depending on what you get. That would be, if you're using Intel, that would still get you pretty close. It would be a not great, not the best, but you would be at a pretty reasonable modern system that could handle whatever you needed to do, and it would be considerably cheaper than buying something brand new. It would also hold you over for a few more years consider it a discount. But yeah, I mean, if you're using like a Ryzen first generation, second generation Ryzen, that's about 7 years old. Just a drop in CPU, add some more RAM. If you're using Intel stuff, maybe you want to just switch over to AM4. That's about the best way you can get a little bit of a deal right now and still keep a system that's reasonable and useful. You might even do what I did with my media server. And I got a 12th gen Intel system, because those can still use DDR4. You can find 12th, 13th, and 14th gen motherboards for Intel that can run DDR RAM. I wouldn't recommend buying new, but used is a good option. I'm trying. Let me see how much. I want to tell you how much I paid for mine.
Remember, be careful with the Intel processors though, because they did have that.
Right. You don't want to get 13th gen i7 and i9, 14th gen i7 and i9. Those would have problems. But 12th gen i7 and i9 or 13th gen i5, 14th gen i5, those should probably should be okay. How much did I spend on mine? I'm trying to see, because I got mine on eBay. For the CPU, I spent about $150, and the motherboard I spent about $100. That's with shipping and taxes and everything. So that was about $250. And I already had some DDR4 I used for that. And that's a very modern system that I use for my media server now. So that you'd be looking at something like a B660 motherboard. It lacks some overclocking capabilities. Most people don't even worry about that. So, and I got a 12600T. You'd probably be looking at a 12600K or 12600F, or even just a plain 12600 or 12700 or whatever. Those are pretty comparable to newer stuff. They're not the fastest, and AMD is still faster, but it will give you something to work with. I wish I had better news for you, but that's your best option for right now. The used market's viable. Fortunately, I'd almost say developers are realizing, we can't code for the fastest freaking things anymore. So they've kind of taken the foot off the gas with GPUs, and even with most games can handle stuff that's a little bit older. So yeah, that's my best recommendation, Chris. And also good luck, because So we'll just have to wait it out. Here comes 2026, and it's not going to be great. You think it's bad now? Wait till it starts hitting phones and stuff. Oh, people are going to holler.
Oh, absolutely.
Because this is going to affect graphics cards next, because they use DDR5, and when those run out, they have to buy more DDR5. And do you know Nvidia did a crappy thing? It's like, okay,
you're going to have to narrow that. Do you have any idea how little that narrows things down?
Nvidia told their board partners, all right, we used to send RAM with the GPUs. You're on your own for getting your RAM now. Have fun. So now, now people who are trying to put the GDDR5 on the motherboard or GDDR6 on the graphics cards. Now it's stuck. Companies like Gigabyte and MSI and Asus, they have to mess with it themselves. So that's going to be fun for them. This is why EVGA left the market. Raising prices for CPUs and GPUs because the production lines are going to get tied up. Let's see. SSDs are starting to show problems. Phones have DDR in them, DDR5 RAM, and when that starts running out, phone prices are going to start going. Man, people are going to be mad next year. And the very important thing to remember when everyone starts talking about how expensive electronics are becoming, tell them it's AI's fault because they're driving up the prices of consumer electronics because they are taking up all the production lines. Make sure they know. Get everybody more angry about this. The more the public hates AI, the faster the bubble's gonna pop. All right. That's going to pretty much do it for it this week. Very long episode this week. We'll be back next Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you got tech questions for me and Mike, send those to requests@radiodeadair.com. I might want to, you know what? Everybody kind of does their worst of for the year, and we're coming up to like the very end. Maybe we could look at some of the absolute worst tech products of the year, bring them together, and just talk about how much they suck, just for fun.
AI.
Oh, there's other choices too.
AI.
All right. All right, folks. For Mike and myself, we'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.